We wanted to interrupt that hearing for just a minute to bring in HHS Secretary Alex Azar. So, Mr. Secretary, thank you so much. I know that it was just 6 months ago that Operation Warp Speed got underway. And I think we should take a moment to celebrate the innovation of these scientists, both here in America and in the partners that these companies have.
Absolutely. You know, America's great biopharmaceutical industry deserves credit, but I got to say, President Trump deserves the credit for basically conceiving of the possibility, the vision that we could get a vaccine within a year, and instead we have it within 10 months of a novel pathogen coming to the United States. And Dana, as you mentioned, these aren't just any ordinary vaccines. Thanks to Operation Warp Speed's effort and the effort to scale up manufacturing and run these comprehensive 30,000 person plus clinical trials, these are over 90% effective vaccines. I mean, this is big news.
It is, and I also wonder about this. So you have the two companies, and maybe more, right, are going to have effective vaccines that the government will say, okay, we're going to work on this. How do you figure out a way to mass produce enough? Because 10 million doses, 20 million doses, that's not enough to get everybody taken care of. How does that work? Do they have to pool resources and share information?
So this was actually the genius of what we built in Operation Warp Speed. We literally began making these doses or paying to make those doses even as we were testing to see if they would work. So we already have stockpiled many millions of doses of both vaccines. We're manufacturing 4 other of the vaccines that are in Operation Warp Speed. That's what's going to enable us from Moderna and Pfizer. If they get FDA authorization, we believe we'll have as many as 40 million approved releasable doses by the end of December. And then it'll just keep going month after month, more production, more qualification like that. And so we know that there are the tiers of who should get it first. Starting, of course, healthcare workers. We need to make sure that they're taken care of, and the vulnerable. And I think that you've already figured that out. But if I could use my mom as an example, okay? So early 70s, Denver, Colorado, very much wants to get back to her life. And at this point, how does she choose who to call in order to try to get in line to get the vaccine, which vaccine to get? How would that work for somebody? Because I think now that it's more real and it looks like we will have this vaccine, now you get down to the nitty-gritty of how do you get it done? Yeah, so we'll be in a very controlled distribution approach as we have more limited supplies in the first couple of months, and we'll be focused on the prioritized groups of those most vulnerable as well as those most able to benefit. So you mentioned a couple of them are healthcare workers, emergency first responders, but then are most vulnerable. So individuals in nursing homes, perhaps assisted living. We're going to look at the data when it comes in. CDC will assess that and make recommendations to our nation's governors on where they'd like us to send vaccine, but it'll be very controlled initially with those limited supplies, because we just want to make sure we get the biggest bang for the buck out of every dose of vaccine, save as many lives as we possibly can early on. So at this point, like my mom should not call her doctor or her pharmacy and sort of ask to be put on a list for December 20th. That's right. There's no waiting list or program like that, Dana, at this point. We'll be moving into that type of general distribution as we move into the months ahead, but initially it's going to be very focused, whether it's nursing homes, assisted living, healthcare workers, emergency first responders, very tightly controlled distribution system using America's world-leading commercial distribution system that we use to get over 90 million vaccines for children out every year through CDC and over 170 million flu vaccines every year. A tried and true system that we know works. Right. And we, of course, utilize all of those assets to make that done. I actually participated in the pandemic exercise in 2005. And when they got to the part where there was the distribution, that was actually one of the most interesting things to me, because how you make those choices and how you get it done, it's obviously a super important part of this. There's also a little bit of politics going on. We have President-elect Joe Biden yesterday suggesting that if there's no coordination, that more people might die. Take a listen.
More people may die if we don't coordinate. If we have to wait until January 20th to start that planning, it puts us behind over a month, month and a half. And so it's important that it be done, that there be coordination now.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't all of that planning continue regardless of this period? I mean, what you've said is Operation Warp Speed is in place for all Americans. And as I understand it, it would just continue to move forward with no interruption.
That's absolutely right. And, planning doesn't begin on January 20th. Planning began many months ago. We put out over 64 pages of detailed technical specs to 64 states, territories, and local jurisdictions. They've all submitted very comprehensive distribution plans. We've been working back and forth with each one of them on that. These are career people at CDC, Defense Department, Operation Warp Speed that are working on that. They continue no matter what. So there will always be consistency and professionalism. The distribution program will go on unabated and uninterrupted.
Secretary Azar, we appreciate you joining us today, and no doubt we'll be anxious to talk to you in the future, especially my mom. Thank you.